This podcast serves Middle Tennessee every weekday morning, and it's made possible by member support. Learn how you can make a difference at WPLN.org/support. This is the Nashvillager Podcast. It's June 24th, 2025. Today is Scots-Irish Heritage Day. It's a clunky name, which I'll explain. It's not a legal holiday, though it was created by lawmakers. The Tennessee legislature wanted to recognize the contributions of those who helped found and develop Tennessee. It was originally called Scottish-Irish Heritage Day, but the name was changed by the legislature in 1995 to Scots-Irish Heritage Day. As anyone from Ireland would tell you, there is a big difference between being Irish and being Scots-Irish. Today, Tennessee's percentage of residents of Scottish or Scots-Irish descent is about 4.2%. And believe it or not, that puts us among the top 10 states. The concentration is strongest in East Tennessee, with Sevierville having among the highest concentrations in the country, just behind Boone, North Carolina, across the state line. The annual Scots-Irish Festival in Dandridge, Tennessee, was canceled last year because of flooding from the remnants of Hurricane Helene, but organizers say it will be back this year. So, if you need more pipe and drum, tartan design, and Celtic music in your life, block off the last weekend of September. I'm Blake Farmer, in for Nina Cardona, and this is your daily digest of what's happening around Middle Tennessee from Nashville Public Radio, WPLN News. In just a few minutes, we return to a joint investigation with ProPublica from 2023 about kids in solitary confinement. The head of Knoxville's Juvenile Detention Center finds himself in another scandal this week, and this time he's stepping down. That's coming up after the newscast. Here's the latest from WPLN News. A group of religious leaders and immigrant advocates is suing to block a new Tennessee law that would impose criminal penalties for housing immigrants without legal status. The Evangelical Lutheran Church in America is joining a local landlord and the member of a mixed-status family in Tennessee to challenge the law. The group says that the law could criminalize a church for offering temporary shelter, a landlord for renting out a room, or anyone living with someone without citizenship. The lawsuit argues that the legislation violates the U.S. Constitution by allowing a state to regulate immigration, a power that is usually reserved for the federal government. The majority of Americans believe that a college education is vital for success, but confidence in higher education, especially private universities, is declining, according to the Vanderbilt Unity poll. Camelia Burris tells us more.
Feelings about Trump's handling of higher education vary greatly across party lines. 77% of Republicans approve of his actions, compared to just 8% of Democrats. Republicans showed the most support for monitoring the social media activity of foreign students, but most respondents, of all parties, strongly opposed Trump determining whether colleges and universities can enroll foreign students. This issue even shows division within the Republican Party. Only 22% of traditional Republicans support the policy, but 60% of MAGA voters favor it. Support for awarding green cards to foreign students who graduate from American universities shows division among age groups, with a greater share of younger respondents approving it than older people. Camelia Burris, WPLN News.
The man who brandished a pistol at No Kings protesters last weekend has been federally charged with unlawful possession of a firearm. 19-year-old Elijah Miller from Murfreesboro was the only one arrested during the protest. Thousands of No Kings protests against the Trump administration took place nationwide. In Nashville, thousands of residents showed up at Bicentennial Mall. Miller was not a protester. Dressed in all black and masked, he allegedly spat at protesters and brandished his gun before MNPD arrested him. Days later, officers from the Murfreesboro Police Department encountered Miller and recovered another loaded gun from his waistband. However, Miller's access to firearms had been restricted in 2023 and 24 by Chancery Court Judge in Rutherford County. The case is now being investigated by the FBI, MNPD, Murfreesboro PD, and the Nashville Field Office. If convicted, Miller faces 15 years in federal prison and a $250,000 fine. The temporary closure of Nashville's main library will be extended for another month. The fire in the adjacent garage on June 10th has required a thorough cleaning and restoration by environmental professionals and industrial hygienists. A statement from Nashville Public Libraries says crews have been working 24 hours a day on 12-hour shifts. They say air quality has returned to normal and that 99% of the books will be fine with a light cleaning. The damage was concentrated in the first-floor conference center, which was covered in soot. Until the main library reopens, patrons are being directed to the Linebaugh branch in Metro Center. Fire investigators still have not released a cause for the fire, which resulted in multiple explosions and a partial collapse of the library garage. The head of Knoxville's embattled juvenile detention center announced he is stepping down after yet another scandal. Listeners may remember Richard L. Bean from our 2023 investigation into his facility's widespread illegal use of solitary confinement for kids.
What we do is treat everybody like they're in here for murder, and you don't have any problems if you do that.
In her latest investigation with ProPublica, WPLN's Paige Flager explores how Bean maintained power as superintendent for half a century.
For nurse Stephanie Clowers, the problems she said she saw at the Richard L. Bean Center began right away. Widespread issues with medication management, kids being given the wrong meds by staff, or not being transported to the emergency room when they needed medical attention.
And I knew then that if something did not change, somebody was going to die in there.
She started reporting the problems to Superintendent Bean, but she says nothing happened. So she reported the issues out to the Department of Children's Services, even to the state comptroller's office. Then one day, last month, Bean called her into his office. He fired her, she says, for raising the issues to the state.
I thought he was going to get away with it. I was like, this whole time, I knew it could be me or him. And when it was me, it was kind of devastating. I was like, wow, he wins again.
Clowers' firing set off a chain reaction in Knoxville, resulting in the county mayor asking for her reinstatement and calling for power of the detention center to be taken away from Bean. There was only one problem. The mayor didn't have power to remove Bean from his post. Neither did state legislators who called for his removal a few years ago after our investigation. That's because the Bean Center is the only county juvenile detention center in the state run by a board of trustees. And Nurse Clowers says there is no point in reporting problems to that board.
He will freely tell you those are his best friends.
His former secretary, his personal lawyer, the judge he was a campaign treasurer for, and even a pallbearer of his wife's casket. WPLN and ProPublica found they all sat on the board over time as voting members. They were the only people who could have removed Bean from power. Bean did not respond to our request for comment for this story, but in his resignation letter, he wrote he was disappointed by the mayor's rush to judgment. Had he not chosen to leave himself, State Representative Sam McKenzie of Knoxville says that board never would have unseated him.
He's just been allowed to go unchecked. So it's just a bad situation compounded by a rubber stamp board that really was trying to protect him and not protect our children.
Bean took control of the juvenile center in 1972. Back then, it was a smaller, city-run facility. In the mid-'70s, it became a regional facility with more beds and contracts with other nearby counties. That was when the board was created, as a way for both the city and county to maintain control of the facility's functioning by appointing board members. The board's mandate is to have administrative control over the center, its budget, and its superintendent, Bean. But Knox County lawyer Chris Coffey says when he was a board member from 1999 to 2020, there was little oversight to be had.
We were getting our information from Mr. Bean, and that's pretty much it, yeah.
He says the superintendent would give a presentation during each meeting about how many kids were in the facility, what kind of meals they served, or how many books were donated. Coffey does not recall any serious discussions about issues at the detention center or with Bean's leadership. He hardly remembers voting on anything other than to adjourn the meetings.
You know, it just never really dawned on me that we were watchdogs. It never really was explained to me that way, even though maybe I should have had enough sense to know it.
And some of the people listed as appointees to the board didn't even know they were members until we called them for this story.
This is the first I'm hearing of it.
Terry Frank is the mayor of neighboring Anderson County. A Knoxville City website has her listed as a member of the Bean Board for 2 decades.
Something definitely as important as a juvenile board, I would definitely appear if I knew that I was a city member.
While it's clear the board has not been acting as oversight for Bean, it is unclear what will happen to it when he steps down in August. Knox County's mayor has called for county commissioners to remove the board from the county codes and put the sheriff's office in charge of the Bean Center instead. McKenzie, the Democratic state representative, says he does not think that is the answer.
This is more of that incestuous kind of, let's keep Knox County business inside Knox County, in my opinion, is what this is. They don't want a full investigation as to how we got here.
It's that type of insular attitude, he says, that created this problem in the first place. Paige Flager, WPLN News.
You can read Paige's full investigation into the board and its ties to Richard L. Bean on our website, WPLN.org. Nashville weather for today. It's going to be hot today, tomorrow, and into the weekend. Our first chance of rain not until Thursday, and it's just a slight one. But today we're looking at mid-90s again, full sunshine and high humidity, so stay cool out there. We do this roundup of Nashville news every weekday. In fact, it's usually your host, Nina Cardona, and she does it better than me. Please consider subscribing on your favorite podcasting app. And thanks so much to all who've left 5-star reviews, a thumbs up in your app of choice. It makes a big difference. And, of course, everything at WPLN News is listener-supported. You can make a donation at WPLN.org, and right now it goes a long way. That's it for today. Thanks so much for listening. Let's make this a day that we can call a good one, and we'll catch back up tomorrow.